one of the traditions of the past many years is to kind of discuss what I did in my year as president. I have titled my talk, Our Year as President, for two reasons. One, because my wife Sharon has been with me almost everywhere that we went and is in many of the pictures, or has taken many of the pictures. And also because I am your president. So this kind of documents our year as Serra and what has happened while I was president. So the first thing we did before I was even president at the convention in Chicago was to consecrate our organization to St. Joseph in the year of St. Joseph. And you can see in this picture, we are kneeling before the statue of St. Joseph with Father Nathan. Dr. Gallegos is bent over in prayer or pain, and Bob Campney is helping him to get up and down, because in my cruelty, I made Reuben kneel on this hard tile so we could consecrate Serra to St. Joseph. But I wanted to do that in the year of St. Joseph, and I thought it was important for our organization to do that. Then, of course, I became president in Chicago at a convention that was attended only by those in the US due to COVID. And I have a picture of us walking up with being escorted by the presidents, which will occur in a couple hours with Greg Schweitz. And then also after I gave my speech, I asked all the board members for Serra to stand up so that Father Rich could bless them, because we need all the blessings we can get in this crazy world to do the work that we need to do. More pictures from the convention. That's me giving my speech. I just really like that picture on the left. Ann McCormick took that. It's one of my favorite pictures. And then my wife, Sharon, and my son, Christopher, were able to join us for that. And hopefully you can see that. So we had a good time. And then this is a picture with Dr. Gallegos also at the convention after we had exchanged pins and greetings up at the podium. Then Sunday morning, I began my work as president of Serra at the first board meeting, and I started with prayer, which is the picture on the right, and had the relic with me as we went through the meeting. I'm not sure everybody is aware that the president of Serra International gets to carry a relic with him everywhere he goes as president, and one of the responsibilities is to not lose the relic. I gave it to John Liston, you will see later, before my presidency term ended, so I did not lose the relic. I succeeded in one thing as president. Next, this was back in Toledo, Ohio, and our Serra Club supports a cloistered monastery, a visitation order. And one of the sisters, the one on the right, who has the flowers on her head, was celebrating a jubilee of her profession. And so I represented Serra over there, and we had for her 25th year, and we represented Serra there, and we had a picture taken there. And actually, we took the relic with us, and the sisters asked if they could keep the relic and venerate it for 24 hours, which they did behind the walls in the monastery. Next, I did do some traveling, didn't do much international travel. There's a saying I've heard, if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. Well, when I became president-elect, or was told I was going to be president-elect of Serra International in Ventura, I had all these ideas that I was going to travel around the world and visit all these countries. And well, you can see God had different plans. We had COVID-19 and all the restrictions. And so most of my traveling was in country. But one of my first major trips was to the Northwest Regional Conference at Mount Angel in Oregon. The Joneses were kind enough to host us there, and Lynn and Dan made sure we were well taken care of. I have some pictures here from the regional conference closing banquets with the U.S. Council Episcopal Advisor, Bishop Daly. We had dinner with him, and he was there for the whole time, and it was a great evening. And then also some pictures from the banquet with some of our Serrans that were attending. It was Mount Angel is a beautiful place to hold this meeting, beautiful place to pray, and it was a very nice event. Next up, off to Omaha. for the 70th anniversary of their charter being issued. And we started off with a mass with Archbishop Lucas, and he had me help him. He had blessed some pins and was presenting them to some of the members. And then we have John Liston had come with a new charter, a representation of the charter in celebration of their 70th anniversary. It was a nice night. They had past chaplains and a lot of Serra members there, and it was just a wonderful celebration, well attended. And Archbishop gave some kind remarks, and then, of course, there's a picture with President Sally O'Neill and her husband Tim, Archbishop Lucas, and Sharon and myself. Then, without much break, we went off to the North Central region meeting the very next week, Sharon says, and this was up in Buffalo, Minnesota, just north of Minneapolis, at the Christ the King Retreat Center, excuse me. And they have some district meetings and some regional meetings, and they have a silent retreat with Bishop Hebda, and it's just a wonderful weekend. One of the speakers was a Peruvian sister from Pro Ecclesia Sancta.
New order.
It's a fairly new order founded in Peru, and they actually have one of their mother houses in Minneapolis, St. Paul, and she was just a joy to talk about what she's doing. They're really working with young people and sanctity and
Proclasia. Explain that Proclasia Sancta is their mission, or their charism is for the holiness in the church.
So we can use that today for sure. And then also there was a representation of the Face of Serra Awards for some people that weren't able to attend the convention. And there was a lot of discussion. They were very excited to get those awards, and that was kind of a neat thing to occur. They also have a memorial service or a necrology service, and here's a couple pictures of it. And we process with the Eucharist, and we have some Eucharistic adoration as well. And they just do a really nice job remembering their Serrans that have passed away in their region in the last year.
They lost a lot.
And Sharon and I with Bishop Hebda, who was just charming. I just loved getting to know him, and he stayed for the whole weekend, did the silent retreat. And before I took this picture, he had his bishop's cross in his pocket, as many bishops do. And I said, well, let me get a picture, Bishop. And he said, I love this comment. He said, let me take out the bishop's bling for the picture. So, and then a picture with at that time, U.S. Council President Dick Arians, who didn't have to travel far from Minnesota to come up there with us as well. And a group picture, a great group.
Either side of
and yeah, Sharon's here to remind me. If you look very carefully, I don't know if you can see it. I'll move my cursor. That is the relic that I carry around with me, and in the case. They have an identical copy of the relic. So they have their own relic. They're special people. So we were blessed with 2 relics of Junipero Serra at that meeting. And then I think it was just on the way back from there. We hadn't even been home yet. And we were actually driving through Wisconsin back to Toledo, Ohio. And I said, hey, I should call Cindy Bell. We're not going to be too far from Green Bay. We don't drive right through Green Bay. But maybe Cindy's available for dinner. And I probably called her early afternoon. And by late afternoon, she had arranged for me to have dinner with Bishop Ricken and Bishop Ricken's sister. So we spent the night, had dinner with Bishop Ricken, his sister, and of course, all things Serra, Green Bay, Cindy Bell. And it was a wonderful night. I think it was really good for the bishop to learn more about Serra. And he even talked about coming to this convention, but I know Cindy's told me a conflict came up and he couldn't make it.
He had just been on the phone with Thomas.
Yeah. Another coincidental story was, as we were talking at dinner, he had just gotten off the phone with my bishop, Thomas from Toledo, because the following Monday he was traveling to Toledo to give a retreat to the priest of Toledo. Funny, small world. Okay. Cindy Bell also took us to Our Lady of Good Help, the only approved apparition site in the United States of America. And that was really neat. I've got another picture in a minute. But on the right, they were selling
Next door.
they were selling next door. They were selling souvenirs for the board, but unfortunately, since I can't be in person, I don't have my cans of dirt for all the board members as your board gifts. I'm so sorry. And then this is downstairs in the chapel at Our Lady of Good Help Chapel. And it's a beautiful chapel. A lot of miracles have happened here. And if you look above, it doesn't come out quite as much in the camera. If you look at the lighting on the ceiling, you can actually see God. I mean, we actually saw the face of God kind of in that picture. It was just kind of a very special time. And thank you, Cindy Bell, for being our tour guide on that, as well as taking us to lunch with Father Richard. And we had a nice little chat with Father Rich, and we had, of course, some fried cheese, right?
Oh yeah, cheese curds.
Cheese curds. And then Cindy also took us to the National Shrine of St. Joseph, where you could see a relic of St. Joseph's cloak, statues, and it's just kind of a neat place. A lot of good Catholic sites in Green Bay. And then we did go home for a little bit before we returned to Chicago,
yeah.
Illinois, for the
We went from
foundation meeting
Wisconsin to
in Chicago. I am still on the foundation board as past president, and this is the only picture I had really before the foundation meeting, where we discussed the grants and the work of the foundation. And then we did a little sightseeing after that. It was Christmas time in Chicago, a lot of things to walk around and a lot of sights to see in Chicago. But it wasn't Christmas yet, because we had to go down to Nashville. At my initial board meeting in Chicago, I had talked about having some sort of a retreat or a board meeting where we could kind of have some time to sit around as board members and talk about some of the larger issues. Bob Rudman was kind enough to invite us down to have that retreat in Nashville in conjunction with their VIP dinner with Bishop Spalding. So we came down the day before the VIP dinner, had a board meeting, partially by Zoom, partially in person, to discuss weighty issues that affect Serra, just so we could not be rushed at a board meeting to talk about how we want to run Serra. What does the board do? Is the board structured properly? How do we do conventions? Why don't we have more people at conventions? And that's kind of hard in a board meeting to get some of that done. And so we walked around and those issues and had a good time. And then the next night we went to the VIP dinner with Bishop Spalding, had mass, and they raised hundreds of thousands of dollars to support their seminarians in the local area. There was actually news people there. They interviewed me. We had this nice picture taken with Bob Rudman, Greg Sweitz, Colonel Halloran, myself, the bishop, Margo, and then we had John Listen in there because we needed somebody that looked pretty. So that's what we did. And then another picture there. There were several sisters there, and it was just a great night. Good food, good fellowship, as always happens at Serra events. And seminarians. And then while we were in Nashville, many of you have heard Bob Rudman speak about the Dominican Mother House in Nashville, and we made a visit to there, and we had a tour, and we spoke with Mother, and I think there was a picture taken with Mother in the group. But I wanted to do this picture because this young lady in the middle is actually the sister of the cloistered sister that I showed you earlier at the Visitation Monastery that was celebrating her 25th anniversary.
Hers was the year before.
One sister is in Nashville as a Dominican, and one is in Toledo as a Visitandi. So, a lot of holiness there. And Margo dragged us out for an adventure. I think that's enough. That's what we can say. So we did, I do, if you see Margo, I want you to ask her about our Uber ride out to the honky tonks and how that went. And then I want you, I don't know, I want you to note on the picture on the right, I don't know if your screen's blocked a little bit from that, but that was kind of an interesting performer we had in Nashville. It was an Asian young man dressed as Santa impersonating Elvis. So Only in Nashville. By the way, he was actually pretty good. And then before we left Nashville, we visited with Ann Getzey in Franklin County. That name might be familiar to many of you. She was at the Nashville convention with her pictures. She's an artist and does video as well, supporting Vocations, women's religious orders, especially the Visitation order. And she's actually a foundation grant recipient for a movie she's making. It got delayed a little bit because of COVID, but she's making a movie featuring the Visitation order.
Her aunt.
And her aunt was a Visitation nun that was cloistered and ended up in Annecy, France for most of her life. So we visited Anne and it was nice to see her. She loves Serra, and Bob Rudman and the Nashville Sarans know her very well. Then we did take some time off for Christmas and then came right back. We went to the Serra Now More Than Ever rally in Dallas. That is the Serra Council meeting that they've been having every year, except in COVID, for the last 7 or 8 years. And they were kind enough to hand me a microphone, and I said a few words. Don't know if they were words of wisdom, but I said them. And one of the speakers that I really enjoyed was their former vocations director, Father Edward Leonard, and he spoke about how he decides which seminarians are actually being called and whether they have the proper formation and the proper spiritual direction. And one thing that struck me that I still think about today is he said he feels it's his job to be a gatekeeper to make sure that the wrong man doesn't get in, because letting the wrong man in can do more harm than me not letting somebody in that maybe I could have. And that really struck me. I thought about that. I kind of wasn't sure I agreed at the beginning when he said it, but I really, just with everything going on in the church, that really struck me. And it's just something to think about. But they're doing a great job in Dallas, and it was a great rally. And of course, we always have some nice masses. We have masses with Bishop Burns from Dallas and Bishop Olson from Fort Worth. And what I really want to point out is the picture on the left. That beautiful picture on the left, which looks like a beautiful church, that is in the convention hall. But the diocese provides that backdrop for events such as this. And I just thought, I've been to a lot of masses for Serra in hotels, and I thought that was just a beautiful setting, beautiful backdrop for a mass in a hotel. And of course, Bishop Burns, I had dinner with him, and just charming, talking about what was going on down south in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And then now I want to show a picture that I'm not in, because I think you've seen enough of me. So, but this is I thought this was one of the most important things that occurred during my year. I was very disappointed I could not go, but even prior to my becoming president, I heard about this symposium on the theology of the priesthood in Rome, and it really seemed something that Serra should be a part of. And so John Liston contacted the people in Rome about it, got a very warm call back from Cardinal Ule's office, and we arranged to be a primary sponsor of this event in Rome, where there was a lot of cardinals, a lot of bishops, and a lot of theologians, a lot of priests. And so I could not attend because I'm not vaccinated, and so I was going to have President-elect Schweitz take over for me, and at the last minute he couldn't attend. And so, but Kurt and Margo and Tony and his wife and Cindy Bell and John Liston, for his good looks, they all went over there. And I'll let them explain to you, if you see them, about the priest who ended up staying with them in the Airbnb or the Verbo. And then also at that time, the foundation and Kurt, representing Serra International, presented a check. We support the North American College. Cindy and Kurt did that, if I didn't say that correctly. And so that's one of the checks that we give out to the North American College as they educate people from all over the United States, and we have supported them for a long time. Then back to Toledo, and I didn't show you, I don't have pictures of every Toledo meeting, but And just making a change here on my computer. But this is an interesting thing that we do. On the left, you see two Indian priests. The one on the right in the picture on the left is a good friend of ours. He was an associate pastor at our parish, and now he's got his own parish. And he's part of the Syrian Melanchthari rite. And there are several priests from his order in Toledo. And the lady on the left, he was telling me, has been Jubilee, has been supporting them and sponsoring seminarians because they don't have enough money to get all the men through. And so I had her come to speak to us. And now, because of her talk, a couple things are happening. One, several Serrans are sponsoring seminarians in India, which are then coming back to Toledo and other places in the United States. The Knights of Columbus are doing that as well. And there's some opportunity for a Serra club there because she's in a group about an hour outside of Toledo of over 20 people that get together to pray for priests already. So we're already in discussions about whether there's some possibilities for a Serra club or something like that. So that is exciting there. One of the things I had to do a little differently as president, since I couldn't travel as much, is I sent out some video messages. And Christian told me that the Serra Paraguay national meeting was occurring, and he asked that I do a video message. I'm not going to play my video message. It might go as well as my previous video message with my head shaking back and forth, but so I'll skip that. But you know, it was well received. They translated it into Spanish, and then he sent me back this picture of the people that attended the Serra Paraguay national meeting. So I did send out several greetings virtually this year, just due to the lack of being able to travel. This was another, just quickly, kind of back in Toledo. I don't think so. At the monastery, there was a presentation of a new chalice, and I represented Serra at that event where the chalice was consecrated. Along with the Knights of Columbus, I attended that, and it was consecrated and presented to the sisters to use. And it actually remembers deceased members of the Knights of Columbus, but the Serrans were involved in that presentation ceremony as well. And then back in Toledo, we have a ceremony, the Holy Week every year, and it's called Evening of Recollection. And our chaplain usually gives us a little talk on Holy Week. He was unavailable this week, so Father Manoj gave us a talk. And we also induct new members, which is on the left, with the candlelight ceremony. There was supposed to be 5 inducted, but 2 of them couldn't make it. So that's always a nice night for us in Toledo. I don't know if it is. And then, so I was also invited to the U.S. Council meeting in Omaha, going all the way back to, I think it was Dick Arians and Judy Cousins several years ago when I was president-elect. They started inviting Dr. Gallegos and I to their meetings to be observers, so we were all on the same page. And I thought that was a nice thing. And so I did attend their meeting in Omaha, and I presented Dick Arians with a rosary that I was handing out as a gift during my year, and Judy Cousins, I gave her one as well. Judy was actually leaving the council board, and Dick was going to pass president, and I was thanking them for all of their service. Then this is a priest appreciation dinner that I attended in Toledo. On the right is our own bishop, and I was presenting him with a rosary as well. And Monsignor Tad Oxley, who used to be at the NAC, but he's now back as vicar of priests. And then on the right, and then on the right of the screen is some of the priests that were there. It was a little lower number coming out of COVID. It was planned late, and some of them had actually left. One thing neat about this was when we first started doing this with Bishop Thomas, he was really grateful that we co-sponsored this with the local Knights of Columbus, because he says it's so hard for priests to go to everything they're invited to, and to have organizations like the Knights and Serrans work together. He thought it was a great idea, and so he was really happy with it. Were you going to say something else on that, Sean? Okay. And then Chattanooga. I went to the Serra Club of Chattanooga and gave a talk. I was asked if I would be willing to come down there, and they didn't think I would, but I did. And so I went down there, talked about Serra, let them know a little bit more about what was happening internationally and how important it is to attend national and international events. Presented their president with a rosary as well. And there's some joyful members of the Serra Club of Chattanooga. And their president, he really was enamored by the relic, and I had trouble getting it back from him. He's holding it in this picture. And then kind of one of the highlights of our year was, we didn't think we were going to do any international travel. And I had been talking with Chainarong about coming to Thailand to do a viewing of the hotel site and just to visit our Sarans over there. And, then I want to say it was early May. I read that Thailand was, going to be changing its restrictions. And so in very short notice, John, Chainarong, and myself planned a trip to Thailand. And it was kind of a highlight of our adventures. Chainarong, of course, had us meeting all the dignitaries. We met with Cardinal Emeritus Michael. He was the previous bishop who gave permission for the Serra Club to form in Thailand. We met with Thailand council leaders. They asked me what was happening in Serra, and they had some questions for me on dues and how we could do some things. And I told them what was going on. And we talked about the convention and how that planning was going. We had a meeting with Cardinal Francis Xavier, who's the current Archbishop of Bangkok. He was very generous with his time, loved Serra, presented me with a gift. I presented him with a gift as well. And in the picture on the left, you see Nipong, Chainarong, Paul Mary, Sharon, myself, and John. And we just had a great meeting there. And then at the end of the day, we enjoyed our time overlooking the river. And Paul Mary joined us again. He was there for the afternoon, and he was one of the founding members of the first Serra Club in Thailand, and he's right there. And it was just great to see him. And then we flew to Chiang Mai, which is the site of the next convention. They were very warm and welcoming. That's just a quick picture of the hotel site, which we took a tour of, going up the escalator in one of the numerous rooms we could be using. Just a gorgeous site. Then we did have a meeting with the Bishop of Chiang Mai, another Francis Xavier. And he was kind enough to have mass in his private chapel with us. And then we had dinner with him, if I'm not mistaken. And we just had a great time. Another great supporter of Serra, and Chainarong and Nipong and some other Sarans from up north were, we just had a great time meeting all of them. And, I am so looking forward to going to Chiang Mai, and they are so looking forward to all of us coming to Chiang Mai. The last day in Chiang Mai, we had mass at a retreat center, which was kind of a neat site. And then we took this group picture. And then we had to sadly say goodbye to Chiang Mai. These are some of the people that were working at the hotel, and they were just so warm, so friendly. They spoiled us. I think they're going to spoil you. So if you decide to come to Thailand, be ready to get spoiled. Start looking for your airfare now. It's going to be a trip of a lifetime to go to Chiang Mai, Thailand. We still had to get our negative COVID test to come back, and the hotel in Chainarong got us to a place to get that done, a hospital, and they came back negative for all three of us. So we all got to come back. And then John left a little early. He had to come back. So Sharon and I flew back a day after John. And I got upgraded to first class, and I had a really tough decision, but I did decide to pay extra cash to upgrade Sharon with me. So we flew back first class for the first time ever from Thailand.
First and last, probably.
And then kind of we're winding down here. The next week we drove back to Green Bay because we hadn't seen enough of Cindy. And I gave a talk at a district meeting, and Mike Downey was there to talk about leadership and membership orientation. And membership coordinator Barbara Luster was there. They got to meet Barbara. They had a lot of questions for Barbara about how things work in the office and what they should be doing. And of course, Serra International Foundation board member Cindy Bell was there to speak on all things Serra, as she always does so eloquently. We needed to restock on chocolate before leaving Green Bay. Cindy brought some chocolate with her to Canada, but it may have been eaten all by the foundation at the foundation meeting. But we needed to get our own supply before we left Green Bay. Shortly after that, we went down to the Apostolate for Family Consecration in Southern Ohio. That's an apostolate that works on personal family holiness for families. Great organization, which I support as well. And actually, I've been in talks with them on some collaborations with Serra. They love Serra's mission, and they pray for priests. And I'm trying to figure out some way to do some collaboration with there. But Father Barrett, their chaplain, was celebrating 30 years as a faithful priest, so I was invited down to join in that. Another Toledo Serra meeting. I just love this picture. Good friend of ours, Father Recker. He was a baby priest. He was an associate at our parish. He went all the way through med school, fighting God's call to the priesthood, and then decided I better try the seminary before I go to residency. And he's now a great priest and just a very happy, holy priest. We were also invited to double Salesian Jubilee. We have a strong presence of the Oblates of St. Francis in Toledo, along with the Visitation Cloistered Monastery. And they had a 400th anniversary of the death of St. Francis de Sales and the 450th anniversary of the birth of St. Jane de Chantal, their founder. And Mother from the monastery gave the talk, was a lector, and then the priest all renewed their vows. And I'm trying to go a little quickly.
And the next week.
Then the next week, we were kind of
still in the novena.
We were still in the same area because there was a novena to the Sacred Heart at the Visitation Monastery, where you can go 9 days in the morning, the afternoon, or both for Mass and a talk on the Sacred Heart of Jesus. There's a picture from the last night with Bishop Thomas on the right at the Mass, and the retreat master, and then the retreat master talking with one of the sisters of Alma. Archbishop of Toledo has asked a lot of sisters to come and establish residences and mother houses in Toledo. And that's the bishop with the sisters, just a great picture. He loves the sisters and they love him. And then the next week, still right in the same area, just down the street, one of the oblates who we've known for probably 10 years was ordained as a priest. We knew him when we were doing youth ministry at our parish, and he was youth minister at a neighboring parish. And then he decided he thought he was called to be an oblate of St. Francis, and a brother, then a deacon, and now he's a priest for them. And he's going to be serving in a parish in Toledo.
Right there.
Right there at Jesu Parish. And he's just a great young man. We're so happy for him. And at that, one of the things I wanted to show you is at that ceremony, that ordination, on the left, you will see Father Dave Ritchie, who was a past Serra chaplain, and he was helping him vest. And on the right is Father Oshevsky, who was the chaplain when I joined Serra in Toledo. So a lot of Serra presence and a lot of collaborations with the oblates. And then before I closed out my year, I wanted to visit the office one more time, talk to John about some loose items and the convention. And I met with the staff again, and then I took them all out to lunch to thank them for all their hard work. And they're doing such a great job for us all. But I wasn't done with my year, because I left from Chicago to head out to Nebraska because I haven't been to Omaha enough. And Tim and Sally O'Neill were gracious enough on very little notice. Again, that seems to be a trademark of mine. They put us up at their house, and Tim took us on a tour. And of course, one of the sites was a graveside, was a graveyard. So that was beautiful. The main reason to go to Nebraska, or the second reason, other than seeing Tim and Sally, was there was a new Serra Club being chartered in Kearney, Nebraska. We started with a Mass with Bishop Hannafeld and Vocations Director Father Neil. I signed and presented the charter to them. Take a look on the right. That's their president. Look how young he is. And one of their board members, those two guys, this is a great club.
And he is Gonna have
And the president has
expecting twins,
2 boys and is expecting twins right now.
all
So,
under 5.
we did an installation of officers ceremony, and the bishop was kind enough to give them a blessing as well. Picture with the bishop. This was, you know, not many charters where you have the district governor, Bill Stahl, you have Jim Burns, the regional, you have Mike Downey, the president of the United States Council, and the president of Serra International and his wife for a charter ceremony. So that was a nice event. They were really blown away that we were all there. And then that's a group. Take a look. I'll leave it up for a minute. I mean, there's a real mix. It's 2 parishes in a small town, and there's a mix of ages and occupations, and I think it's going to be a great group. And that was the charter. So you can see it. Yay. And then, oh, I got to get rid of this if it's blocking. And then we headed back to the Liston residence on our way back outside of Chicago. I wanted to drop off the Relic to make sure it was at the convention. And there's Johnny Liston, John's oldest boy. And then at last minute, I called Dennis Lieber and asked if I could swing by the Lieber residence, and they couldn't have been more gracious. When I got there, Dan Grady was there, and we talked about all things Serra and reminisced. And then Catherine was there, their daughter, who was the perfect hostess, along with Margaret, who's in the picture. And for dinner, which we kind of invited ourselves to, Monsignor Ed was there, who was their past chaplain, who has now been arm twisted back into being their chaplain again, as I understand it. And we've traveled with Monsignor Ed, so it was great to see him again. And then I finished out my year virtually, of course, because I'm not with you in Canada. So on the left is a foundation meeting that we had on Wednesday, and then a picture from our board meeting of the Serra board on Thursday. So thank you, Serra International. I want to thank you for letting me be your president. And that is my time around the world.